What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. BobbyFi with my man, Eric Sheets-Haber. I was just talking to Eric pre-show. I took the weekend off, and I feel rejuvenated and ready for some DFS NBA. It's a long, stressful season with what's going on and the way that they're handling this. I think they need to make some adjustments because it's not making it the most pleasurable experience, the way that they're handling all the injuries and late news and all that stuff. But I'm really excited to be back and excited for a good week. Sheets, do you have a good weekend? Anything exciting?
Yeah, so we got, I may as well share some good personal stuff. In the last 3-4 months, I've been like walking to work, taking care. I reached a nice goal. I lost 30 pounds.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Yep, in the past several months, which was good. Second of all, I have sleep apnea, which means that I snore. And that might it's totally manageable with CPAP and all that had for forever. But the good news is that they decided that sleep apnea was a provided excess COVID risk, which means I moved to the front of the vaccine line.
Hey, all right.
So I'm getting my first dose of that in a couple of days. So that's one more step back to being a human being, which is 2 steps back. 2 steps
for you, man. That's pretty
with the losing weight and the first step of the vaccine. It's been a long 12 months, and yeah,
that's awesome, man. That's
good news. Good news on those fronts.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I wish I could say the same about the weight thing and about the vaccine, but I'm excited for you. My family's just gotten their second doses, a lot of them, and
excellent.
It's getting to be exciting to maybe live life again pretty soon.
Yep.
In the meantime, we've got a fun little 7-game slate on a Monday, and there's going to be a lot of chalk on this slate. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that there's going to be different options. There's, like every night, we've got a bunch of different options here. So let's get started. We're going to go game by game here. Obviously, things are going to change. We will be back with you at 6 Eastern time. And
now you did catch the Cleveland stuff, right?
I did what?
You did catch the Cleveland stuff, right?
I saw that there's something happening. I didn't get any confirmation on it. We're expecting no what? Drummond, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But we don't know what that we don't know in general what that means, but
from what I heard, the blurb that I heard was that Cleveland is expecting to not play him as they shop him around.
Yeah, that's sort of what I figured. I'm curious where he'll end up. But
I've heard rumors of Toronto.
I think it's possible. I could see that happening. I've heard a few different places before, but I don't know. I feel like he could end up being pretty solid in Boston somehow if they could work that out. Anyway, we'll figure that part out another time, but we'll focus on today's slate. But I do think that Drummond news is it's interesting, and it's going to open things up like crazy for this Cleveland team. So we'll get there when we get there. But let's start off with the first one. This first game is a game that I would have targeted probably on different slates. I don't love a ton from the Bulls side here. I think that I want to just say about Zach Levine real quick. This guy, this season he's having, the thing about Levine that everybody always knocked him for was his defense and his efficiency. His efficiency is about as good as Steph Curry has ever been. I mean, it's incredible. And actually, Steph Curry is about as good as Steph Curry's ever been also right now. But Zach Levine is averaging 28 points per game right now, shooting, I mean, this is crazy. He's shooting 52% from the field. He's shooting 43% from three, and he's shooting 86% from the line. Now, he's got a chance. He's probably not going to make the 50, 40, 90 because the 90 is going to be hard to get. But this is incredible efficiency. The guy's been unbelievable. And he's actually rating as about an average to a slightly above average defender this season. He's been awesome. I don't think I'm going to end up getting him tonight at 9.2K, but he is on my list as the only guy who I'm really kind of considering at all. I do think that maybe Kobe White takes enough shots, but on the Bulls side, is there anybody that works for you? With Wendell Carter possibly coming back, I don't really see a lot of greatness. And even if he was out, I don't really love much. Patrick Williams would be the only guy I might have some interest in.
Yeah, I have an unexciting, if I have 4,300 exactly left over, maybe I get to get Garrett Temple, but
yeah,
but not even, because Daniel House is exactly 4,300 also. I probably get to him instead.
He might be a better play they're pretty close, I think.
Yeah, I guess. They both kind of suck. But yeah, not flexing. I do not have Zach Levine's text in my phone, but I have met Zach Levine. He came to do a clinic at the local AAU gym where I for the trainer that I use. So I have met him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So the only thing I would say about this whole game is I'm going to flex just a little bit because I was a little bit ahead of the curve on TJ McConnell.
You deserve to flex on that one.
Now he's not, but he wasn't before. He was always cheap on FanDuel. I didn't really look at the FanDuel. I rolled towards the end of the show. And the funny thing is, when I mentioned to him, if anybody wants something really super sneaky but unexciting, maybe TJ McConnell said, one thing I'll tell you about TJ McConnell above and beyond everything else, freaking playing great. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Good for him. And he actually rates as kind of a decent value on DraftKings, actually, at 5,200. Now, again, it's not like a through the roof value, but and I don't know how many people are actually going to go to him, but he's fine. With respect to the other guys on Indiana, I guess you still just keep playing Sabonis. I mean, he's 9,100, and with no Carter, I mean, I don't know, man. I think he's going to have a really, really big game. So Sabonis, part of me wants to say that Levine is still playable at that price, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to put all three of those into the hopper, so to speak. Sabonis, all four of them: Sabonis, Levine, Temple, and McConnell.
Interesting. So I'm okay with Sabonis. I on the Indiana side, I actually do have a lot of interest here. We need to know for sure about Doug McDermott. I expect he'll probably play, but I actually think that he's, sort of similar to McConnell. He's been really, really solid. I don't know. It's not the most exciting play in the world, but it does also not take up a guard spot, and he could easily 5 to 6x here. He's been playing the minutes. If for some reason he's out, and he is questionable right now, I think that opens up even more for McConnell. But I also think it opens up potentially for Jeremy Lamb to be back in the mix a little bit. So Jeremy, that's just one to watch out for. But you probably need McDermott to be out because Jeremy Lamb's just not getting enough run right now, and it's partially due to McConnell playing so awesomely. I don't know how much of McConnell I would get to tonight, but I do have him on my list. It is a crazy eights night, so maybe I will max enter. I do have some other practical stuff to take care of today, so not sure.
What's crazy eight? Oh, the $8. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Which always makes me feel like, it feels tempting for. By the way, I actually had some nice mass entry things on the $4 last week. I just had, I had a few top 100 finishes, but it doesn't sound like much. But that's out of a million people or whatever, and there were some real nice lineups in there. But it's pretty fun to do, and I actually made some money, so that was cool. But yeah, so I think Brogdon has been awful. He can't possibly shoot this poorly. I still feel like he's too cheap, and it's a good matchup. And what's going to maybe end up being my sneaky play at center is going to be Miles Turner. I like this matchup quite a bit for him. I don't think that people are really giving him the love that he probably deserves on the defensive end. Now, the minutes have fluctuated, and the weird part is they've been in a lot of blowouts. He's also had some foul trouble games, and his production is sort of all over the map in general. But they're gonna play him as many minutes as they do, and I just feel like he's, for a team that's sloppy, attacks the basket, he can get there with steals and blocks. People are going to play Cousins at 200 more. I just feel like he's an interesting not off the board, but less lower owned play. So I have interest in all three of these guys, but I would probably rate them Brogdon, Turner, then Sabonis. And the only reason I have Sabonis behind those guys is because I prefer Julius Randle today to Sabonis.
Makes perfect sense to me.
That's as of this morning, by the way. That could change as of a little later. I want to speculate when we lose another big piece, like the only other rebounder on the team is gone. I think Randall's rebound upside could be 20 plus. All right. You want to jump over to Houston, Washington?
Yeah. So here we go, right? So I'm presuming that there's no Westbrook. So you have a 1-point spread, and you have Bradley Beal at 8,900, which is it's pretty good. So I like him. And then on the Houston side, you have you have Daniel House, who I mentioned earlier, but more to the point, you have both Wall and Cousins. I mean, not that you needed this, but Wall going back to Houston, Washington certainly doesn't hurt. And even if you were not, in that situation, he's only 7,500, and I think they played him some serious minutes recently, finally. And do you have a 36? Yeah, he had 34 and 36 a couple of games ago. And the last game was a 20-point blowout. I mean, this is this is a tough fade, right? I mean, I haven't looked at everything else yet, but I presume he's going to be pretty damn chalky in this spot, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, like going to Washington and all that stuff, an extra narrative, I actually think that does matter, even though that it's not the same situation. You know what I mean? We don't have fans and all that stuff. I still think it matters in this particular case. It's got to be hard to sit and be hurt for 3 years and then got traded for. And I'm the biggest Westbrook guy in the world. This is not the same Russell Westbrook that we've seen in the past. He's hurt. He's clearly hurt. John Wall, look. Is he at this price? I will say that everybody calling him, like, acting like this is the easiest, most chalky play, and you're going to play this guy over Malcolm Brogdon. Maybe people should pay attention to the fact that he's been this exact, everybody's top play, one of the highest owned projected. Always, we're going to play him under 8K every time. He's only hit 40 fantasy points once in that time. He had the one early game earlier in the year, but since all this has been happening, since we've had, no Harden and all that. He's hit 40 fantasy points one time. That's the argument against playing him.
Well, I'll tell you, you're touching on I have so many different DFS related projects that I would like to do. One of them I'm working on, which I've kind of shown a few times, but one thing that I'm interested in is something along the lines of what you just said, that okay, you can game log watch and you can say, okay, John Wall scored 40 fantasy points in a certain day. But what I want to know is how a guy did relative to his projection on that day. So like if John Wall, for example, scored 40 fantasy points against Miami or something like that, I want to know that when he was projected at, 30 at 39. And I also want to know if he scored 40 fantasy points against Sacramento when he was projected to score 45. And I think that's very. I think that's very. And how a guy scored, and we sometimes have to do this manually. Like we see that XYZ scored 50 fantasy points. Oh, but that day there was no Harden, or oh, but that day there was no such and such. There's got to be a way to see that without remembering, you know what I mean? That he scored 51, but no big deal because he was supposed to score 51 because the whole country was out. Like all these OKC guys who are just smashing, right? Okay, wonderful. They're supposed to because no one else is in the lineup. So like when you're saying John Wall, and he was in this freaking nut matchup spot like several times over the last couple of weeks, and he has been put up pretty pedestrian performances. So there's no reason to say necessarily that we got to give him that much of a bump because he's in that kind of matchup, because he's been in that kind of matchup before.
Yeah, and also there's other things that play into it. Like he had what seemed like a semi minutes restriction for part of it. He was not playing for more than 30 minutes. Now he's playing more minutes, so I kind of get that part of it. I'm just pointing out that's the argument for fading a chalky guy, and I understand what you're saying in relation to like when he did and when he didn't. The truth is he didn't. He just hasn't. In the last 12 games, I'm not sure if he's exceeded his projection once. Yep. Maybe the one game against San Antonio, he wasn't projected to score 41. But he's projected to score 40 pretty much every day, and he hasn't done it except for that one game. So that's the argument for it. I still love him in this matchup. I will take the under heavily on this game. I don't understand if people are paying attention to the right things or whatever. I think Houston is they were a little bit fraudulent, especially with the, not just the defensive numbers, but just who they are. They're not, and especially without Wood, they're just not an Oladipo. This is not a good defensive team anymore. They were playing well for a little bit. They've got guys like Nwaba and Gordon and House who are all solid defenders, but you put DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall out there, and immediately without Oladipo and Wood, it's not the same thing. So I just want to say like every Washington game lately has basically gone under, except for that Toronto game that I loved so much. I mean, look, Washington scored 104 points and won yesterday against Boston. They scored 115 in that game against Toronto. That was the higher scoring one. Only 105 against Chicago, 105, 101, 97 against Charlotte, 95 against Miami, 103 against Miami, and they won that game. So mostly they've actually been playing slower, and they do play slower without Westbrook. So if we believe Westbrook is going to be out tonight, I'm just throwing it out there that this may not be the game that's so high scoring that everybody, it could easily be sloppy, ugly, and in the low hundreds, maybe even a little bit lower for one of these teams. But I still like Wall and Cousins. The prices are still interesting. I would tend to be, probably around 30% of both of them just at first look. And Bradley Beal is really hard to fade, like really hard to fade. I'll probably do a little bit of it. I don't really have a great argument for it because everything seems to make sense for him. But I do think you could play some other guys over here. I mean, you've got actually a lot of guys on this Washington side without Westbrook have upside. Garrison Matthews I prefer playing him alongside Westbrook if he's going to play because he's probably going to get more shots off that way. But he's going to get minutes today and he's going to have opportunity. He's willing to shoot. And Denny Avdia, he's another one who the 26 minutes could easily turn into 28, 29. Rui Hachimura has been pretty good with one of these guys out, but hasn't really put up that monster game really that we want. But he's been a little bit struggling a little bit lately. But I think he's okay in this matchup. I think if I had to rank them, I would go Bradley Beal, followed by Avdia, followed by I guess Matthews. Even they're obviously value plays, and then Hachimura. The guys who I'm sort of debating on are what do we think? How much do we think Mo Wagner is going to play on the back-to-back after not playing? And I don't think I'm going to be getting to Raul Neto at chalk, which is what I've got him projected at right now at 4,600, just seems crazy to me. And I don't know if this guy, I think he once may have in his career has put up 30 fantasy points. He had that 140 fantasy point game this year. I don't know. That just feels like that kind of fishy. I would rather try the Wagners. I would rather try Hope Bertans gets hot. I would rather try Avdia and Matthews than I would Neto personally, even if the minutes are pretty secure. And I would even take a shot on Troy Brown if it was a different slate. But again, it's early in the day, so it's hard to know how it's going to shake out. But for value, it's Matthews and Avdia for me.
Another thing that I thought about, we talked about DFS in general a year or two ago, was when you have an opinion like that on a game like the under or an over or something like that, if you're someone who plays both DFS and sports betting and other things, like what's the best number one, what's the best way to leverage that? Like if you think the Houston Washington game can go under, there's a couple of things you can do. Number one is on a pure sense, you bet the under, right? The other thing you could do is you could go underweight on the main scorers on both those teams in DFS, or another pure thing you could do is you could play those prop bet sites and say, okay, I'm just going to go under on Bradley Beal scoring or under on what's his name scoring, and then like on the other side, like if you were a DFS guy, right, and you just thought that Beal was going to have a bad game, could you again transpose that to other mediums? But then, and again, I'm just kind of in the mood to like kind of meander today, is, me being a hedge fund manager, is there a way also to like optimize that? Like, okay, you know what? I think that Beal, even though the game might be under, is still kind of like unfairly priced given his role. So maybe what I could do is I could bet the under on the game, but yet play Beal like a big percentage in my DFS thing, and try to like get that middle in the middle. So I don't know. I just wonder again, with all these super brilliant people out there with all their models and their different disciplines, if you guys want to win the DFS Sports Betting Nobel Prize, it's another thing to work on is how to put those disciplines together and say, okay, if this happens in DFS, how do you get compensated on that in sports betting? If this happens in prop betting, can you hedge that in DFS or something like that? So that's like I said, these are the things I think about on President's Day when the market's closed, and I can just really focus on other stuff.
Oh, the market's closed today, huh?
Yep.
Oh, there you go. Remind me at some point I need to talk to you about some stock stuff too. All right. Yeah. So I mean, look, this is a good game to target still, even on this slate, even with the.
What do you think of Cousins?
I like him. Okay. I like I said, I think that I think I was sort of on it, to be honest with you. Not that he was like terrible in these games, but I was mostly trying to find ways to avoid him.
Yep.
And a little suspect about his minutes. And I'll just echo the same thing again tonight. He's projected to play more minutes than he's played in the last 5 games. And he's played it once in the last 15 games or 12 games. I'm not saying that the minutes he won't play 26 minutes. I'm just saying he hasn't, and that's what you can look at as a way of getting different. I don't like Daniel House is another. We've seen this with Daniel House before. Like he can go off at different times, but I don't really see this as being it's not like they're down so many bodies. Like they've got guys who are going to play minutes. They've got Nwaba, they've got Eric Gordon. Just because they don't have Oladipo doesn't mean none of these guys are going to play. They're going to play Mason Jones a few minutes. You got PJ Tucker still there, Sterling. They've got like 11-man rotation still. So
and I'll tell you this, that if I don't know what's happening. I didn't really get big ownership runs yet, but if Cousins becomes somehow way too popular, there's a zillion different ways you could go. I mean, you don't have to play him.
Yeah, starting with the guy, in my opinion, that I mentioned in the last game, Miles Turner. At least you have a minutes upside there, and I don't have the production to be that different between the two of them in their projected minutes. But I think that ranking it though, I still would rank Wall and Cousins 1 and 2 on this team for me. And then the value I would rank, I actually do like Eric Gordon a little bit, but it feels like you're asking a lot at 6.4. Like you want 40 fantasy points probably from him. And I think 35 is definitely possible, but he just doesn't get there very often. Maybe he gets to 40. But I like he and Jayshawn Tate, I'm mildly interested in, but a little bit more interested in House than either of those two, although not overwhelming. And then if I'm mass entering lineups, I will play David Nwaba at maybe 5 to 10% for me. And then, obviously Beal, Matthews, Abdi on the other side. I think that's pretty much it for this game for me.
Between a guy like House and a guy like Tate, like instinctively for me, if they were close, I would think that you'd want to go with someone like Tate, only because, I don't know, it just feels like younger with more volatility. I don't know. It just feels that way.
Well, Abdi is younger. Abdi was the first.
Oh, I meant Tate versus, House.
Oh, sure. But like House actually can so I like Tate a lot. Okay. He has to be incredibly efficient to light it up. Daniel House has played with Harden and when he played with Westbrook and these things where they basically, the rule is, hey, look, if you ever get an open look, you just keep shooting them. It doesn't matter how many you miss, you just are going to take them. And if you look at it, he's taken over 5 threes, I think in 12 straight games, Daniel House. So that at least gives him the opportunity to succeed. Whereas Tate might not even take a shot for the first half or something. Occasionally he'll take a few threes, but nothing to the level of House. So I would give House a little bit of the edge, even though I think Tate's the better basketball player.
Okay.
All right. Ready to move on to Atlanta, New York?
Yeah. What happened to Clint Capella's when he's playing 30 minutes a game, they just totally cut him off. He was a good play the other day, and I was almost afraid to do it, like on a back-to-back because of his minutes. And now they gave him 28 minutes again, and he had a really, really nice game. But I was just wondering what had happened to him. He was really, really killing it, and then they just kind of, I don't know, they just kind of didn't stop playing. I don't know what was going on. With the Atlanta side of the ball, I'm not too interested in all that much, honestly. Like the Knicks have become, a very slow team. It's very tough to get involved in the kind of track meet that you need to when you have a guy like Trae Young that you want to get there. Collins at 7K looks kind of tempting, but if anybody, I think I might go with Capella if anybody, but I think I bet I think I better centers. I mean, starting with, honestly, they're not gonna they're gonna keep Noel at 4,400. I think you're just gonna have to play it, right? That's my. Now he didn't really score that many fantasy points, 23, but you had to give him 30 minutes. That's kind of ridiculous. So you kind of have to play him. And I like who you mentioned before. I like Randle a lot. He is probably the only, you could make the case for RJ Barrett, but not even, but you can make the case that Randle's the only guy who's still getting those, those Thibodeau minutes, right? Who just always getting those 35 plus or at least close minutes. And, he's in he's in a terrific spot this year, you know. So I think that Randle from the Knicks, like you mentioned, is a very, very strong play. One of the top 10 plays on the slate, I would say. And on the Atlanta side, then Capella would be my reach, I suppose. And I don't think I'm going to get the Trey.
Yeah, I agree with almost everything you said. I actually think Capella at this price, you have to take shots if you're playing tournaments. It doesn't matter. If he plays 26 minutes, he could put up 50 fantasy points here. As much as New York, as much as New York slows the pace down and everything, it's not like Capella needs to play at like a lightning pace in order to put up huge fantasy production. It's actually can go the opposite sometimes. I mean, like he just had a nice game against Indiana, who's not on the faster side, although actually every big man has beaten the hell out of Indiana, which is really strange. You have arguably the defensive player of the year on the team and Sabonis out there, and they're just getting crushed by big men. But I think Capella at 7,500 in a matchup where, look, they're going to play. The minutes may fluctuate. I still think he plays closer to 30 than 25, but it's probably right in between somewhere. And if the truth is Collins has been just unbelievable, and this is a really poor, in my opinion, the Hawks, which I took back, and then I want to say it again. I think this is a really poorly constructed team, and I think they made a lot of really dumb decisions with a lot of good young talent, and it's sort of stupid in my opinion. You're gonna lose Herter minutes and Reddish minutes so you can play Gallinari. If you're really a playoff threat, are they even better? Like it just feels really weird, and I think it's just there's like a lot of bodies, but who's even good anymore? Maybe they should just stick with the young guys. It just feels like very scatterbrained to me the way they put this team together. Having said all that, I think Capella would be my number one. I don't mind John Collins at all. I think John Collins is just a guy. He's always low owned. He's always got upside. You absolutely don't feel like you feel safe with his floor, but the truth is he's almost always in the 30 plus range, and he's got like 60 fantasy point upside, really, really big upside for him. So I don't mind him, but Cam Reddish would be like right along those. I just want to take shots on him when he's really cheap. You could easily put up 30 for 4,300, even in a not terrific matchup. It's not terrible either. But yeah, the main plays in this game are going to be Noel and Randle. You got Taj Gibson back in the mix now in New York, which has me a little bit worried about the minutes for Noel. It just feels like Tibbs gets his guys, and somehow he ends up with all the same guys he always had. And it's sort of like the guards make me nervous too. Now Derrick Rose is over there because I think he's going to play, low 20s to mid 20s every game probably now. All of a sudden, this Knicks team that had all of this usage condensed is really only Julius Randle now. And I love Julius Randle. I think he's going to be lower owned than he should be. I want to play him over Sabonis at first glance. I think he gets a boost from Mitch Robinson not being there as well. Again, mentioning that the other rebounder out, and they will play him at the 5-some, in my opinion, in this game, even though they didn't do it in the last game, which kind of surprised me. I think he will get some 5 run in this one. So Randle and Noel are two of my favorite plays in the slate. And Capella on the other side is a great tournament dart.
Okay, so I have another tournament dart that I was kind of going to throw out there that that you kind of talked about a little bit. Is I actually think that Taj Gibson might be in play.
Okay.
So one of the reasons why I was a little nervous about Noel in the last matchup, and it turns out it it didn't matter, was Houston really didn't. I wasn't too worried for whatever reason about them having to match up with the bigs. I didn't think Cousins would play more than 25 minutes or whatever it is. But with Capella, as a true center out there, I think they're going to need to play like a 5, like the whole game. I don't think they're going to be able to get away with Randle playing 5 minutes. So I think that if Noel is extremely popular and he swipes at Capella, or Capella runs a couple of pick and rolls and gets fouled, and Noel gets 2 quick fouls or whatever, like you mentioned, I mean, Thibodeau is what he is, and he has the guys that he likes, and it's not like a great play, but you want a tournament dart. I do think that, considering this direct leverage you're going to have over a really chalky Noel, I mean, like if he gets 2 fouls and like half the DFS community is whining about it, the other half could be like, ooh, I got Taj now with the possibility of getting 25 minutes. I don't know. So I definitely think it's possible. I wouldn't play him in single entry. I wouldn't play him in, any high buy-in. But I think that if you're playing the crazy eights like you're saying, I do think that you could sprinkle him in a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying about the size. I think that Randle can still play the 5 against either of those guys, but the truth is that Tibbs probably will stick to it like that for this game, maybe a little more than I thought at first. I was thinking Obi Toppin, but I think they'll use him as a straight backup for Randle. Yeah, okay, I can get behind a little bit of that in large fields.
Okay.
Ready for Philly, Utah?
Yeah, so I guess first thing is Embiid Q again, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Anyway, if he's out, then Dwight Howard, Tony Bradley, I guess whoever starts, I suppose. Simmons, everybody if in play if he's out. Question is, if he is in, do I like him? First of all, Utah's is really good.
They're really good.
And before everybody goes too crazy playing Cousins, you can squeeze another 900 or 1,000, whatever, and get to Gobert at 7,200. Man, that's pretty strong. I like Gobert. I like Mitchell, especially with Conley still out. I think Mitchell remains like a really elite play. And yeah, and then I feel like he's kind of wait. I mean, I like Embiid. If he plays, I think he's in play. As he's going to be every single game, I think. And then I don't think I'm going to go back to Simmons again unless Embiid is out. I don't think I'm going to go to Tobias Harris again unless Embiid is out. So I guess for me, Philly would be just Embiid, and Utah, I guess, just Mitchell. I guess you got to play Clarkson again, right? Clarkson and Gobert.
Yeah, I have interest in Gobert. Starting on the Utah side, I guess. Gobert and Mitchell are I think 2 excellent plays. I just think Gobert's too cheap. I know it's not a great matchup, obviously, for him, but he doesn't really. I mean, he's fine. He doesn't have a problem with anybody anymore. You watch him; he looks really, really good this year. I think he's a very strong play at 72. That's part of the reason why it would be harder. But maybe you could play a lineup with him and Capella, and I think that's going to be a pretty unusual mix. 72 and 7,400. But I think Mitchell and Mitchell, I will have a little bit of Clarkson exposure because I think he's going to be overlooked here and could easily get to 40 if he gets hot. We've seen it happen over and over again, especially without Conley still. On the Philly side, I don't really have a ton of interest unless we have Embiid out, to be honest with you. I think that if Embiid plays, maybe I'll have a few shares of him. But I'll probably get some exposure to both Howard and Bradley, but I would like to see who's starting, and I probably would take shots on both guys either way, but I would definitely prefer the starter, obviously, in that situation. And it would open up things for a lot of these other guys too. Ben Simmons obviously would become a very strong play just because of the usage, and as would Tobias Harris. But we need to know on that one, and we may not know until late. So we hopefully by 6 Eastern we'll have a better feel. It is on the road for Philly, so I think we'll have a good feel for it. And I mean, it's hard for me because my personal take is that Embiid is trying to win the MVP. I really think he is too. I would have thought he would play this tough matchup no matter what, but I don't know if we just don't know. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how bad his knee really is. He just keeps being questionable, and I think he'll play. But if he doesn't, you want to jump on the other guys, but you're probably not going to know until after luck.
Okay, you want to move on?
Yeah, let's go to Cleveland and Golden State.
Okay, so here's my opinion on the Cleveland Golden State game. So Andre Drummond I presume is not going to play. Actually, he is now. Well, let me see the most recent.
Lisbon is out where I've got him.
Yeah, Cavaliers don't plan to play Drummond moving forward. They actively seek to move the bin. Okay, that's fair enough. So a couple of things to note. So Jared Allen is instantly thrust to the starting center position in a matchup against no bigs for Golden State. So this does a couple of things. Number one, it makes him project really well. Number two, it makes him extremely popular. So we have to figure out whether it's worth the popularity, right? You already have Noel at 4,400, and you're going to have now Jared Allen, who's going to rate to be a really, really strong play also. So let me make, I don't want to say the case, but let me just throw out there a couple of reasons why you could fade Jared Allen. Right? And number one, Golden State's going to be a really, really sizable favorite, and this game could blow out. That is one argument. Second thing is that, as I mentioned, Golden State has no bigs. So, I'm not gonna say they don't need him, but it's not as if like Jared Allen has to play 35 minutes in this game. You know what I mean? Like Golden State's going to go really small, and Cleveland could go small too. So those are the reasons to fade Jared Allen.
You missed one. Can I give you one more?
Yeah.
JaVale McGee.
Right. Okay. So right. That's the other thing. Right. So JaVale McGee, if in fact, right, if in fact they don't go small, right, is going to be certainly in play also. So I'm going to give you my Cleveland take, and then you can just kind of yell at me. So my favorite play from Cleveland is probably going to remain Darius Garland at 5,500. I think he's really, really cheap, and it's a fast-paced game for as long as it lasts, so to speak. And I think that he's in good shape. Sexton is a little bit expensive at 6,800, but he's fine. If you want to go, if you want to be a little cuckoo, there's two things you could do. Number one, you could play Cedi Osman at 3,300. He hasn't gotten that type of run where he could blow out slates, but I have seen him in the past, and he could play. I don't say he could play 5, but he could play 4. And give me 25 minutes out of him at 3,300, he's got a shot. But in your honor, Bobby, again, I don't know if I'm just woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, wanted to play stupid stuff, but kind of want to play Teray and Prince today.
Yeah.
I think that if they run a small lineup, I think that it's a perfect situation for him. I feel as though it could. I think he can play well in a fast-paced matchup. I think they can give him run if it blows out. I think all of it is good for Teray and Prince, and I don't know if he's going to get any love. I don't know if people are going to talk about him or whatever, but I think that he's a good pivot. And it's really weird to say, like I would say pivot off of Jared Allen, right? Because it's not exactly a pivot, but I feel as though I kind of want to play him for some inexplicable reason.
Yeah, I think it makes sense with no Nance and no Drummond. The only issue is Cleveland has been playing a lot of these other guys just like some minutes. You get all the some minute guys like Dotson, Lamar Stevens, your boy Dylan Windler, and then you've got Okoro who will play a bunch of minutes. So I'll just say I really like Cleveland today. I think I'm going to have Cleveland players in a lot of lineups. I love Garland. He's my favorite play on their side, including Jared Allen, by the way. Maybe that'll change later in the day, but I think Jared Allen, like he could even play well and still get to 35 or 40. And by the way, because center's so loaded, maybe that's not even enough today. So just that's another way to consider it. We also mentioned other guys at 6,200, at 7,200, at 7,400 that all could outdo Allen even in this situation. So I'd like to see where the ownership ends up on him before I commit to that. I love the Osman call. I think there's an outside chance he ends up getting a bunch more run with these guys, which would take away probably from Prince, but I also like Prince a little bit. I won't be playing them together, but I do have some interest in both. And then I have interest in JaVale McGee. I think he's going to get run. It's his old team. They don't need to play big, but I think that they're going to play him, 15 minutes. And I think in that time, he can put up 25 fantasy points. Maybe he'll play a little bit more even, but not much. So he's on my list too. Not overwhelmingly excited, but all these guys I will have heavy exposure to. I will even have exposure to Sexton at his price. I think that without Drummond, it actually does take away some of the offensive, I think some of these other guys are going to have to take over more of the offensive responsibilities. And then I don't mind Okoro, assuming that he's going to get his minutes again, just as a part of a game stack. It's not my favorite play in the world to play a guy who doesn't ever do anything, but He's 3,400 at part of a game that I like, so I will probably look for him in a couple game stacks. I am struggling a little bit on the other side of the ball. I really like Curry, but I don't love him, and he's expensive. I like Oubre. Like everybody I like fine, but I don't feel like I feel like they're going to be heavier owned than I want to invest in with especially in Oubre and Wiggins' case. And even Draymond's too. I just think I want to be under the field on those guys. It's weird though, because I like the game stack. So I will take another shot again on my boy Juan Toscano Anderson. I love this guy just as a real player, but nothing overwhelmingly exciting here for me, except for Curry, I guess is my favorite play over here. And even that feels like, do we want to spend all of our money there? Just, Sheets, what's your take on Golden State? I don't have a great feel for it early this morning.
Yeah, I mean, I like Curry, but it's going to be hard to play him over some other guys. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I mean, I different position, but play him over Beal, I don't know, and play him over some of the guys in the Brooklyn-Sacramento game. Considering that Cleveland, I mean, you can believe this if you're not or not. I mean, the Cleveland defensive efficiency thing is depends on how you look at it. I think that part of the reason they were efficient is because Drummond was pretty good inside. But
yeah.
I don't know. I think the game could be. It just doesn't seem like a game where Curry scores 60 fantasy points. I don't know how to quite describe it. I think they handle him pretty easily, and they're just, I don't know. Okay. Wiggins is going to pop is probably the best value, but at only 6,300.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. I think Cleveland will fight still, but I could see that happening. I'm just not that excited over here. Maybe by the time we're done with this, I just don't think I'm going to get to too much from the Golden State side, but I love the Cleveland side. I will have like at least one Cleveland player probably in all my lineups as of right now. I don't know, maybe two.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that much. I won't say excitement, but that much.
It's just there's a lot of guys I like enough, and it's a good game, and it's a really good game tempo environment for them, and it's speculative plays that, like you mentioned with Osman, there's speculative plays that we hope that guy gets us 25, but there's other guys who are like 3,300 like Osman who has gone out there in these kind of spots where he's supposed to play 20 minutes and played 35 and put up 45 fantasy points. You know what I mean? And that just is appealing to me, especially when I'm mass multi-entering.
Yeah.
And again, look, they're two bodies down from their regular lineup. So unless they just totally evenly distribute the minutes, whoever's hot probably will have a chance to really do something. Maybe it's your boy Windler again.
Yeah, he played 24 minutes last couple of games.
Yeah, I think
someone came into the Discord and said they mistakenly let them in a dummy lineup the other day and he scored 30 fantasy points.
I saw that. That was pretty cool. I think it was that's pretty funny. He's put up double-digit fantasy points like 6 games in a row.
He's fine.
But I don't think I'm going to get there much. But I definitely do like.
Hey, he's a good candidate for blowout run too.
That's true. That's very true. All right, you ready to move over to Miami and the Clippers?
Yes.
What are we doing here? I have a strong one take I want to do, and
you want to try Butler?
I just can't resist right now with this guy. I really do believe he's playing. They're running everything through him. I know he struggled in that game against Utah. Hey, it's happened to everyone. The usage is great with Jimmy. Whenever the usage is high with him, it's almost guaranteed production. He's been really good. I mean, we talked about it last week, and everybody thought he would be heavily owned in that game against Houston, I believe it was. Yeah. Or was it the Knicks? I can't remember which one it was. And he ended up being pretty low owned and put up 56 or 58, depending on which game that was. I can't remember which day that was, but I just think he's getting too much involved, and they need to win games. This is a spot where like this team is still like, I know it's early in the season-ish, but it's 30+% of the way, 35% of the way through, and they're fighting for playoff positioning. So Jimmy Butler, and then look, we named a bunch of better center options probably, but I will just say that Bam at 8.3 any day could go out there and score 60 and make us all feel foolish. And I like him a lot in this matchup, by the way. I think he just would decimate this front line. The problem is they are running everything through Butler right now. So it's really just those two for me on the Miami side.
Yeah. So for me, I I like Butler, and I'll tell you something else. I mean, I was talking about this when I wouldn't talk about it that much, but like going into yesterday, I was like, there's no way that they play Kawhi. I was like, it was going to be. I was so confident they were going to end up sitting him, just because they don't like to play him on back-to-backs. I know Paul George is out too, but they don't like to play him on back-to-backs. They had Cleveland last night and Miami coming up today. Okay. So I don't know, but lower leg bruise, I think, is a freaking enormous joke. I think they just wanted him, I think they just wanted him to sit for the Miami game. I think he comes out. I think they're really, I think they've been looking for this game. Miami is defending East Coast champions, right? I think that LA is going to go all out. I think there's no chance Leonard sits. I think Leonard plays, and I think he freaking smashes. So I like Butler and Leonard together. I think that's, if there were other good, that are the great spots. I mean, like there's Wall and Beal in that game, and there's Sacramento game. But this game could be under-owned, maybe, the LAC Miami game. I don't know. So I like Leonard a lot, and I like Butler also.
I wonder if anybody else would rest on the back-to-back. That would just make it a little bit interesting. Like, I don't think so, because I think you're right. I think they just play everybody. But Ibaka did play, he doesn't usually play that many minutes. He played 29 minutes last night.
He's rated as a very good play, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know how much I agree with that.
Yeah, I know.
On the back-to-back, but in a terrible matchup. But at the same, I can't do it, man. I'm sorry. He's
only 5K though on draft.
But who are you playing him over? I just named 9 centers. So centers are your utility. As of this morning, until things change, center is your utility spot, in my opinion, on DraftKings.
Let me ask you honestly, like if he's going to play, do we really rather play Noel at 4,400? I mean, yeah.
I think Noel will play more minutes than.
Really? I know, but Serge Ibaka's like an actual set. He's an actual basketball player, not like Noel.
He's not like a better point per minute guy than
no. Okay, fair enough.
I mean, look at him. Like what's he get? Like, is he like? I'll take a look.
Why is he playing so much? Is Zubac out or something?
What do you mean? Why is he playing? No, they traded for him. He's like their big offseason acquisition.
No, I know that.
He's actually playing less than I think most people thought.
That's what I'm saying. He's been playing less than. Screws it.
He hasn't played 30 minutes yet.
I don't know.
I think he's. I think he's on a back-to-back. This could be a mistake. I mean, I think this is a potential not even playing, and yeah. I think it's pretty sharp that at least the minutes production I'm looking at have him in the very low 20s, because normally you'd have him at 26, 28 here. I think that is right, the lower 20s, but you know what? It could work out, Sheets. Maybe I'm overlooking it a little bit. I'll get a little bit of exposure, and I understand your overall point. I don't know. And I love the Kawhi versus Butler call or something along those lines. I do think these guys get completely overlooked. It feels weird to pay. Actually, it doesn't feel weird to pay that much for Kawhi. It's just a bad matchup, but I think that's a really solid play. And I think he's going to be lower owned than people think tonight.
Meanwhile, the thing that I actually did okay in DFS. I played yesterday. I placed like just a handful of lineups. I cashed kind of small in all of them. I couldn't believe I actually made this play and it actually worked. But I actually had Lou Williams at 6,300.
Oh man!
And he actually had 49 fantasy points in that.
Nuts.
I don't know how that actually happened, but I don't want to play him. I'm not playing against Miami at 6,400.
Yeah. No, I mean, I hear you, but I mean, obviously that was without Kawhi and Paul George.
Yes.
But Kawhi being back obviously will kill some of that. But yeah, it is nice to see Lou getting some run. I mean, with all the times we bet on him over the last couple of years since this happened, I feel like he kind of owes. He got you one actually. He won you a tournament, but he hasn't won me a tournament yet at this because he's never owned, and he's not going to be again tonight. Okay, so we have the absolute. Probably the most important game, and it brings up an interesting point, Sheets, before we get into it. One problem with playing these early games, and we've seen it over and over and over and over again every day, there's just always late information, always. And you're missing out on potentially value that you wouldn't even have thought about yet. So just wanted to say that. And when there's a great game like this at the end, maybe that's what we want to get in business with anyway. How are you sort of approaching the Brooklyn side of this?
Yeah, so nothing earth-shattering is going to be coming from me. I feel maybe a little bit. I like Kyrie and I like Hart.
Right.
There's no Durant. I like the two of them. This is track meet city. I like them both. And you know what? You're going to have to unfortunately, you're going to have to talk me off of DeAndre Jordan at 4,500. Although I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not.
You know, we were talking about fantasy draft before the show, but I feel like you think we're doing a fantasy draft thing because you got all these centers, buddy.
Yeah, I know, understand him. I don't know why he's that much worse than Noel.
I don't think he is necessarily. I don't even have him lower projected ownership wise than Noel.
Okay. All right,
I don't think they're that far off, but I actually have Noel playing more minutes, and I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, and then on the other side, I mean, I guess I like Fox, right? I mean, this is the track meet, right? This is not the two worst defensive teams in the league, but the two fastest freaking teams pretty much. And how can you not do this? So for me, I don't even know how fancy I'm going to get. I'm just going to I'll play Fox and Harden, Fox and Kyrie. I don't know. Am I missing something?
No, I'm pretty much on the same page with you. I think that Harden's ownership, Harden's price is going to keep people off of him, but I would just remind people that he could put up like 80 here.
Please give me a break. Kyrie is shooting guard eligible too. Please.
It's fair. He should be. He plays shooting guard. That's his position. He actually announced it the other day, so they kind of have to do it. He said, James Harden is the point guard and I'm the shooting guard. That's what he said. So that's great for Kyrie. That's great. You're going to get more ownership, obviously, on Kyrie. But I like Kyrie. You know, the thing about Sacramento, they actually, to their credit, have been playing a little bit better defensively than they were earlier in the season. But yeah, I like the idea of just doing those guys with Fox. It's really hard to find anybody who makes sense on this slate other than those guys to me. Rashawn Holmes, if I was doing the full stack here, would make some sense. I don't know. It's hard for me.
I can't play Rashawn Holmes against those over those centers, right?
I know, that's right. That's the problem, right? Like, but
so you brought up an interesting question. So who do you like more? Well, okay. Who do you like more, Noel or Jordan, considering that you could play Jordan as part of a stack of the game you like?
Well,
not to you know what I mean, not to
tough question. I
mean, towards that, but I mean,
yeah, I think that you might be onto something. Maybe I don't love DeAndre Jordan either. Maybe I just don't play either of them, to be honest with you.
Okay, there you go.
I think you've got good center options elsewhere. I don't see why.
You know what you do? You don't play either of them. You go play a beat or something like that.
Or just play anybody. I mean, we just named like I have tons of centers that I like. I mean, Capella or Gobert and
Cousins
and Bam even and at 8,200. I mean, come on.
Surge,
JaVale McGee as a cheapo.
Forget Jared Allen. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, Jared Allen. Like, I mean, there's just so many guys. So yes, center does seem to be the best position for the utility spot today. Real quick before we jump over, just to talk for a minute about FanDuel, I'm just going to say like the highest owned guys I've got right now. Centers in the utility is the one piece of advice I would say. And then I would Beal, I'm going to get less of this. Beal, Wall are still two of my higher owned players, even though I don't necessarily know if it's going to end up that way, because I think there's other options. Garland, Gobert, Mitchell, Kyrie, Cousins. Again, I have too many centers here in my initial projection, so I'm going to have to try and figure that out. Jared Allen, Malcolm Brogdon, I think is going to be under-owned tonight, and not under-owned, but like I think he should be much higher owned than he's going to be. And Jimmy Butler is the other one I really like. And I like your call about Kawhi. I think that Kawhi is going to be overlooked, and I really like that idea, especially because what if there's like no official announcement? There will have to be something. He won't be on the injury report or something. People are going to be nervous though after the sitting and then the Q tag. I don't know. I just don't think he's going to be that owned at 9.6. All right. Do you want to jump over to FanDuel and talk some positions real quick?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is do things a little differently. I'm going to put in I'm going to start with just like the raw values that I like, and then we're going to hopefully build up to guys that are like I don't want to say actual plays in the wrong way, but guys that like higher spend ups and stuff like that. So like at point guard, I guess I'll just start.
Yeah.
So at point guard, the like even John Wall at 7,700, good play for all the reasons that we mentioned earlier. But other values, I mean, we mentioned Raul Nato, if you want to go all the way down to 3,700. I know you didn't like him all that much in
I
general.
like him better at this price.
Yeah. But the other guy, again, this is not the sexiest play in the world, but you play value at comp for Thomas Satoransky maybe. I mean, again, 3,900, you could do worse.
Mm-hmm.
But if you wanted to, spend up, I really don't have much of a lean between. I guess I do. I was going to say between Curry and Irving. I guess you just gotta like. For me, I guess you gotta like Kyrie more. That would be my thing. Just because I just a much faster pace, and I kind of like Kyrie more. But what's the interesting guy again? There's going to be the low owned guy that oh my god, it's almost direct pivot off of Wall too. You mentioned before is maybe like not Garland, Indiana, Brogdon.
Yeah.
So he's like literally a direct price pivot off of it. I think it was going to be very chalky John Wall. And I don't know if anybody's going to play Brogdon, so maybe that's the idea.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't Wall going back to Washington, I would just give the edge to Brogdon here. But I like both those guys probably the best, along with Garland. And then if you're paying up, I have Kyrie just slightly over Curry, and then De'Aaron Fox is a great price. Neto is the cheapie you could use if you need to.
Right. So shooting guard, I threw in these two cheapies just to show you, but like the best plays at position I think are the spend ups. So Harden, Beal. I think it's a legit drop to Mitchell, even given the price. But I don't know, I'll throw him in there. So Harden, Beal, Mitchell, I think they're all fine. And I think you probably need to play one of them. There's just too much. There's just a lot of points coming out of those spots. So I think you probably should play one of them between Beal and Harden. And I mentioned I'm not gonna play Alec Burks. I just threw him in there. I'm not playing a guessing game with that rotation.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Although I expect him fully to make us pay at some point. The only guy who I mentioned that you didn't mention was Colin Sexton. The price is reasonable. I know he's really been struggling lately a little bit, but I love the matchup, and I think at 6.5 he's very reasonable. So I love him for tournaments. It's probably going to be overlooked as usual. But other than that, I think it was pretty much just the guys you mentioned. You could take a shot if you wanted to on Hero. I like Jordan Clarkson too.
Yep.
That's pretty much it for me over here, other than guys you mentioned.
For me, it's small forward again. If you wanted to start with value, you go to Daniel House, 4,200. As long as Conley's going to remain out, you still go back to Ingles at 4,900. But likewise, you have a couple of really interesting, really good spend-ups over there. We just talked about them coming out of the same game. Butler at 8,900, Kawhi at 9,800. Neither of them are particularly cheap, to say the least. But you need to get your points out of somewhere. So I think that either of them are fine. Need to play one of those two. I think it's more. I don't know. I think it's more important that you play. I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you do need to play one of those two. But one of those two is going to score, right? I don't know. So again, Butler and Leonard spend ups, and for me, House and Ingles spend it.
Yeah. Let me just try to find Kawhi because his ownership his projected scoring is so low. I think Kawhi, he's going to be very low owned over here, so I think it's kind of interesting. Pretty matchup proof. Yeah, he and Butler are both interesting. He and Kawhi, Butler, and Oubre are like your more sure point. Oh, and Ingles, obviously. Ingles is the main play over here, I think.
Okay.
I don't really see a whole lot of reason not to play him. It's pretty gross after that. I don't mind Hachimura. Abdia and Matthews are my cheap options, and Gallinari. That's pretty much all I've got. I do think Gallinari is going to have a game one of these days pretty soon and may end up looking a little bit too cheap, so maybe we should keep an eye on him. He's struggled so far and cost me a lot the other night. It really cost me a lot because I had a great lineup with him in it. but I don't mind Gallinari taking a shot there because the minutes are trending in the right direction.
Power forward, same as DraftKings. Even though he's a little more expensive here, relative to salary, he's fine. Nerlens Noel at 4,800. And then somebody that you had mentioned on a little bit is Patrick Williams. He's a decent kind of punt, but we got to talk about those two guys, the two big guys. So we have Sabonis, but it's kind of hard to play Sabonis when you can play Randle for 1,000 less, right? I mean, so I think of the spend ups, I think Randle is probably the better of the spend ups between him and Sabonis. I don't know if I'm going to get to Bam again. I just feel as though Randle's a really, really good play, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I like him. Maybe him and Noel or something like that.
Yeah, I actually kind of like this. You know, and it's not that I love like so many spots, but I like a few things here. I don't mind Noel, but I don't think it's a must. I think he's a solid, and I think you play him along with Patrick Williams for real cheap. That works out for me. But I do really like Randle tonight, and I give him the edge over Sabonis and Bam, who I like also, but just not quite as much. And then the unknown John Collins is always a little bit interesting to me just because no one ever plays him, and he has massive upside. Obviously, if no Embiid, I think that Tobias Harris would become more in play, and it's probably fine anyway. It's just not my favorite play.
Yeah. What is Jared Allen's price?
Jared Allen, where is he?
He's power forward, right?
They must have made him a center by now. No,
he's 6,900. He's 6,900.
Yeah, so something about the projections is still showing up a little wonky. Yeah, so Jared Allen also. Sorry about that. I guess that's the long and the short of it. He's Jared Allen's probably as good a play as any of those other guys.
Yeah,
maybe better.
With less options and only one center spot, I think you could play. You play Cousins at 6,100. He's going to be I presume he's going to be high owned. I don't know. He seems to be my favorite play over here.
Yeah, he'll definitely be owned over here. Center's kind of gross. I think Capella becomes more of an interesting play over here because everybody else is priced significantly higher, except for Embiid, who I guess is in play, but obviously hard to get up there. Don't love this position.
How about your other dude? How about
Miles Turner?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fine. He is better with the shot block. I mean, the thing is, he averages almost 5 stocks a game, so that's 15 fantasy points. So he's actually kind of better over here, but he's also more expensive. But yeah, I like Turner. This is one I'm going to have to try and figure out later in the day because I don't have a great, love for anybody here. Cousins would be the most normal one. But if I find out Capella is going to be low owned, I would go there, and then you can always just try and win the position, assuming that Embiid does play, and just play Embiid.
Yep.
All right. Sheets, anything else for the people before we get out of here?
Nah, I think we're good.
All right, guys. Hey, hopefully that was helpful. Good luck to everyone tonight. We'll see you at 6 Eastern. And for Sheets, I'm Bobby saying good luck.